Welcome to episode one of the Ask the Law Firm Seller Show. My name is Jeremy Pook. I lead Senior Attorney Match. I sell law firms. I've been selling law firms for about 10 years, started Senior Attorney Match in 2013, and lawyers have all kinds of questions when it comes to selling law firms as well as purchasing law firms. The genesis of this show is that we're fortunate that we lead a number of CLEs. During CLEs, we get great questions, and we find that addressing those questions during Q&A is a terrific way to just flesh out what's on people's minds. So please subscribe to the Law Firm Seller YouTube channel. We're planning to offer the Ask the Law Firm Seller show on a monthly basis. Our sister live stream program is the State of the Market for Law Firm Sales, which we also do live once a month. All right, let's jump into it and let's start answering some questions. All right, so our first question is, how do you value a law practice, right? How do you value a law practice? We know that there are five components to valuing a law firm. This is just generally speaking, five components post 2020 to valuing a law firm. And that consists of what we call five value chips, which are the client list and the referral source list that lawyers, senior attorneys, those are attorneys that have practiced more than 30 years, that they've developed. That's their book of business. Again, client list and referral source list. Additional value chips are the goodwill that attorneys have developed in their communities, states, regionally, nationally, sometimes even internationally. Subject matter knowledge that lawyers have developed in often multiple practice areas over the course of their careers, and then digital value. Right? We cannot deny that we are in what we call the 3.0 digital era for the legal industry. That is 2020 pushed the legal industry digitally, and more lawyers, they're developing digital value, whether that's their websites, whether that is PPC, SEO, all kinds of digital marketing that's now translating into value. Question comes up though, in terms of, okay, this is how we value it. How do you get paid on it? Okay. In terms of how do you get paid on the value that you've developed, we are still in what we call law firm sales 1.0. Okay. And law firm sales 1.0, the primary value components, just going back to those five components of value, are the client list and the referral source list. That is, a buyer of a law firm will often say to a seller, okay, Mr. or Ms. Seller, or the law firm that's selling, we will pay you a percentage of revenues over a negotiated period of time based upon the collections that come in from your book of business, right? And that book of business derives from the client list and the referral source list. So in 1.0, it's earn out payments as compared to payments that are paid upfront at a closing. And then the seller is coming in with the additional value components of goodwill, subject matter knowledge, and digital value. So what does that mean? That means that your typical seller needs to continue practicing. Okay. And the deals that we're structuring for our clients, for them to monetize their law practices over time and to be paid that earnout, our clients are often practicing for 6 months, a year, 2 years, longer than 2 years. They are transitioning their clients over to the firms that they join, and then they're getting paid on that percentage of revenues that comes in from the collections. Very typical deal terms, can be more, can be less, but we're often trying to get our clients somewhere in the neighborhood of a one times gross revenues, which translates into something in the order of 20% of the collections on those revenues for a 5-year period. We're also starting to see post 2020 what we're calling law firm sales 2.0. Okay. And law firm sales 2.0, there will be, already is, and we're certainly going to predict that there will be much more of this in the future, that there is money paid at a closing, because a buyer is not just purchasing the what if that the client list and the referral source list will continue to generate clients going forward. They're going to be paying on the reality that we know that matters. Clients are coming into this firm because of digital value and brand equity. So we're seeing this initially, in areas of practice like personal injury law, right? Personal injury law attorneys, they've been investing in digital value often already for decades. They know that clients for certain firms are coming into those firms because of the brand value. Because of that brand value that's attracting in the clients, a buyer, and probably even more importantly, a bank, because a bank is willing to lend on a sale price, can look at the digital value and the brand equity, and that can justify a fixed price up front plus earnout payments over time. So we are here now in mid 2023. We're starting to see law firm sales 2.0, and we're certainly going to see more of law firm sales 2.0 as the 2020s continue. All right, let's see what our next question is. So our next question is, when should an owner of a law firm consider selling a law practice? Great. So there's several answers to this, but let's just share what we're often seeing in the marketplace, right? Like why are sellers are contacting us? So we're showing here is that one reason why sellers are contacting us is because their revenues have actually started to go down, right? Of course, you want to sell your law practice, like selling any business, when the revenues are on the incline. But what we're starting to see in particular post 2020 is that even though senior attorneys, that is, again, attorneys that have practiced more than 30 years, even though they score so high and they've got a great client list, got a referral source list, subject matter knowledge, goodwill, digital value, those five components of value. What's happening in the marketplace, though, is that growing law firms that are investing digitally, that they're attracting people when clients today more and more are going to where when they're searching for lawyers? That's right. They're going to Google. We are often saying that Uncle Google is America's greatest referral source. So when it comes to that question of, okay, when should I consider selling? Is that if you're starting to see a dip in your new client development, it's not that you're doing anything wrong. It's just that the younger players in the market know Google better than you do. And what we recommend to our clients is that if you join a growing law firm that can take advantage of these five components to value that we're showing here in this infographic, then what we're finding is that our clients can get value for their practices in what we call law firm sales 1.0 and earn out paid over time by joining a growing law firm that will invest digitally, will then pump up that business development that our clients, the senior attorney clients, were so used to, what we call the word of mouth era. That is the pre-Google era. Join a growing law firm and can get best value out of your practice. Because if you just maintain status quo coming out of 2020, when those younger growing firms are beating you to the punch on Google, then your revenues are going to go down because you're not going to have as many clients. Your firm, as a result, is going to be less valuable because the most valuable asset that lawyers have when they're selling their law firms is their clients and their referral sources. And that's why we're showing here that if you maintain your status quo, what we find with our clients that decide to stay in status quo for too long, revenues go down. And then the worst of all results for lawyers is what we call a Random Tuesday event. What happens if a lawyer can no longer practice, or somebody very significant in their firm doesn't continue practicing with the attorney and leaves the firm with significant clients? In those situations, the revenues can really just plummet, and when the revenues plummet, the expectation for getting your best value out of the practice, unfortunately, that goes down as well. Here's another reason why people should consider, or senior attorneys should consider selling. When should you consider selling your practice? It's when you finally realize, and sorry to say this, but finally, because it takes a while, okay, to realize this, but to realize that your internal successor, they do not want, and it's often more than one, they do not want to purchase your law practice. They can't afford to. And we have here this infographic that shows the four reasons why internal successors, why they don't want to purchase a senior attorney's law firm. So many senior attorneys, let's take a step back. Okay. Many senior attorneys, they were developing their firms, right? They're great rainmakers, great lawyers, and they figure, wow, if I'm generating the work, I've got to hire qualified, good lawyers. I'll train them. They'll service my clients. And then, at whatever point, they're going to want to purchase my practice because It's just there and ready for them, almost like if they were my child, it's like a family business, they'll take over my business. Well, here's the four reasons why in reality that rarely happens. Okay. You hired an internal successor as a key employee. They still only want a job. They don't want to own and run a small business. This is a big one for many lawyers. I'm a lawyer, okay? But we went to law school and not business school, right? We went into law school because we really didn't want to run our own businesses. I happen personally, sure, I probably should have gone to business school instead of law school. Different conversation, different day. That third reason is they just can't afford to purchase your law practice, right? They've got so many other expenses going on in their lives. They've got mortgages, car payments, paying for kids' colleges, thinking about their own retirements. To think about the cost needed to pay for a senior attorney's practice, just a bridge too far. And then that last reason is that they just assume that their boss is never going to retire, right? Like you may go down to their office, on a given like Thursday afternoon and say, "Hey Tom, hey Joan, like why don't we talk about about whether you want to buy this practice at some point?" Tom and Joan will be like, "Yeah, cool, let's talk about it, but like let's do that next year." Okay? I mean, they may talk to you that Thursday afternoon, but for these four reasons, they typically don't want to. So when you're considering selling your practice, it's very important to realize that the internal people who you want to purchase your practice so badly, they just don't want to. They can't. They just want a job. Okay, so then when should you consider selling your law practice? By realizing that growing law firms, and that's often your friendly competitor in the marketplace, that a growing law firm wants to buy your practice because of the synergy values that your practice presents to them. Okay. That is, if you think about your friendly competitor in your market, okay, let's just go back to personal injury law, right? Like you have been building a great personal injury law practice and you've got friendly competitors in the marketplace. You'd love for your internal people to take over the practice, right? But they don't want to. Your friendly competitors, though, they look at you like, wow, you can bring over a ton of clients. You've got a workforce that is well trained, great experience. They know the courts, they know the clerks, they know the clients, they know that subject matter knowledge. And they also look at the senior attorney as an opportunity to market all of the clients and all of the know-how that the senior attorney has developed over the course of his or her career. And that doesn't just apply to personal injury law, it applies to almost every practice area. Trust and estates is another great one, right? If a senior attorney has developed a tremendous book of business in terms of building up a T&E practice with often hundreds, sometimes even thousands of wills that they have prepared over the course of their careers, if their internal people don't want to purchase that practice, well, guess what? Your friendly competitors, they do because they see the synergy value that you as the senior attorney present. All right, so let's talk through and address our next question. All right, so next question is from a buyer's perspective. Okay, what type of law firm should a buyer consider buying? Great question, because we get these often, and I'll answer it in a moment, but I'll share with you initially like the types of ideas that buyers, and they could very well be right, and I could be wrong, but a buyer's typically thinking to themselves when they call us wanting to buy is like, okay, great, we're running this trust and estates practice, and we think that it would be great to pick up a practice, that focuses on litigation, right? We've got the transactional side down. We do primarily T&E. We do some corresponding real estate work. We do some corporate work, but we just don't do litigation here. So why don't we try to purchase a senior attorney's litigation practice? So I'll give the Family Feud answer here, right? And okay, so why not? Let's show an infographic that shows why what we see in the marketplace. So we want to win on Family Feud, of course, right? What we see in the marketplace for what buyers should be thinking about. That is, a buyer, in our opinion, they should really be thinking about growth by acquisition. Stay in your lane. So we give this construction motif, right? If you've got buildings, if you're a buyer and you've been building these buildings, okay, that's focusing on trust and estates, and let's just say the corresponding areas, like I mentioned before, real estate and corporate, okay, and we want to grow. Well, you as a buyer are thinking to yourself all the time, wow, how can I pick up more clients, right? How can I pick up talented attorneys? Well, why not look at senior attorneys that practice in those same practice areas? Focus on T&E in this example, do some corresponding real estate and business law. So we're now adding buildings, which gives us instant expansion in the areas where we're already practicing. Said a lot more succinctly, stay in your lane. Okay. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I just mean in a very positive way, right? Let's just keep building an area where you already have this great goodwill in and take on the goodwill, the clients, this instant client growth. We're looking here at those key benefits, of course, that growth by acquisition presents. So that instant client growth, picking up a combined workforce of the lawyers at a senior attorney's practice, and very importantly, okay, the trained para staff who just they know the practice area, they know the clients, right? They know how to fill out whichever forms, documents, and whatnot. The cumulative experience that the whole new team can bring together, and then very importantly, post 2020 is the marketing value, right? Is so often when we think of growth by acquisition, we get these calls all the time, right? That a senior attorney has a list of clients that's 2,000, 5,000, sometimes even something like 20,000, okay, clients that they do nothing with, right? A growing law firm that they've already developed. They've got e-newsletters. They've got targeted e-newsletters, right? They send e-newsletters to their T&E clients. They send separate letters, e-newsletters to their real estate clients, separate ones to their business law clients. What if you as a buyer could automatically come into that list? Now, granted, there's work involved, right? You've got to spruce it up. You've got to get the new address. You've got to update the physical addresses, update the email addresses, update the cell phone numbers if we're going to start engaging in texting. Of course, everything has to be done appropriately under the rules of professional conduct. But from a buyer standpoint, growth by acquisition, when a buyer is thinking about how do I grow my practice, how do I pick up new clients, a senior attorney led firm that practices in your practice areas and they don't have internal successors to take over to take over their own practice is just an amazing way for instant growth by buyers. Okay, so now we're going to move on to the final part of the Ask the Law Firm Seller Show, and we call this Pook's Post. So for today's post, the question is, how does the e-revolution for business development for lawyers affect senior attorneys, right? So e-revolution, like what does that even mean, right? It's hard as we're living in history to have a perspective of history, but make no doubt about it, right? We are in an e-revolution. It probably started right when we first started taking on email addresses, right? And that Google came onto the scene. But 2020 just rocked all of us so much in terms of like rocked us, pushed us digitally. So when it comes to business development and senior attorneys, right, we know that senior attorneys have five components of value to their practices, right? We know that they have practiced for 30 plus years, they developed their client list and their referral source list over the course of their careers. But when did they do that primarily? They did that in what we call the word of mouth era, right? They went to plenty of networking events. They wrote lots of articles. They gave out a tremendous number of business cards, mailed thousands and thousands of Christmas holiday cards to their clients. Now let's look at 2020, right? In terms of this pendulum of where clients are today, right? Like you can have thousands of business cards ready to hand out, okay? But let's look at where the clients are today, right? When clients are looking for lawyers today, They are looking online. They are going primarily to Google. It's the same way if you're looking for the best hotel that you want to stay at the for the vacation you have coming up. You want new golf clubs. You want to buy a book, right? We are all going to Google. We're searching on Google for attorneys. We're looking to see whether those attorneys have 5-star type reviews. And if you don't have that as an attorney or a law firm yet, you should be adding it. And for those senior attorneys, in terms of this question of like how's the e-revolution affecting business development for senior attorneys, if you're not engaging in multi-channel digital marketing with a focus on Google, then the result is that you're just going to be developing less clients going forward into the 2020s. And by having less clients, unfortunately, that is going to result in less value of your practice. So let's just look at an analogy. All right. This is a drastic analogy, of course. When we think of Netflix and Blockbuster, right? We all remember how convenient it was, right, to just jump in our cars and drive down to a local Blockbuster, right, and rent a video just the same way that we used to go to the library and go through the Dewey Decimal System, pull out an index card, right, and find the book and take out the book, right? Good for Blockbuster, amazing for Blockbuster, what they did at the time when they absolutely excelled. But as this is showing, right, when Netflix came on the scene and it became so much more convenient to just click a button on our remote and order on demand the movie that we want, well, bye bye Blockbuster, right? It's just in the rearview mirror at this point. And as we're in this e-revolution for the legal industry generally, okay, the same is happening now. We get calls very often from senior attorneys who are telling us that I can't believe I'm not getting the calls as a 62-year-old that's been practicing in this practice area, and I know this subject matter, and I used to get the calls, and some 37-year-old for some reason is now getting all the business. Why? Because that 37-year-old has figured out how to market himself or herself or their firm on Google to attract the clients. So what's the antidote? Okay, you've got tremendous value. Okay, in this e-revolution, you've got tremendous value that you've developed over the course of your career, and that antidote is synergy value, right? It's very hard for senior attorneys to recognize like when is a good time to sell their practices. But as we talked about earlier in today's episode of like when should you consider selling? Well, if you see your revenue starting to go down, but you still have a ton of clients, you've got a great workforce, you've got tremendous experience, and you've got marketing value that, albeit you don't have the time at this point to to market digitally as much as your grandchildren are telling you should, as much as your kids are telling you should, your nieces, your nephew, heck, your secretary is telling you, come on, you can do it. You can start a podcast. In reality, you're just not going to do it. But by joining a growing law firm that recognizes the value that you have and can bring you into the e-revolution, right? Why not join the wave that Netflix presented, right? I mean, look at what Netflix did and look at how many streaming options that we have in today's marketplace when it comes to, entertainment that we're watching on TV. When was the last time that any of us would have ever even thought of driving down to go rent a video? Right, or whatever other analogy we want to use, whether it's the BlackBerry phone versus Apple, and so many other things where technology and convenience has just led consumers to go to where it is convenient to find attorneys. And if you're a senior attorney and you're thinking about, oh my goodness, I am just losing out to younger firms that are getting the business, our advice is while you still have, and while you absolutely do have those 5 components of value that are led by the book of business that you have, then recognize the synergy value. Growing firms, they want and need what you have. You have clients, you have referral sources, you have goodwill, you have know-how, and you have tremendous digital opportunities. All right, so that is episode 1 of the Ask the Law Firm Seller show. We welcome people to come back for episode 2. We're here to answer questions. Any questions, whether you're considering to sell a law practice or buy a law practice, doing this for a number of years, happy to answer any questions that you have on either the sell side or the buy side. Thanks so much.